Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sujata, the Associate Director with Creating Values, and I welcome everyone for the webinar of today, that is quarantine webinar of today, on the topic Business Resilience powered by IT Cost Optimization. We have been joined by business and IT leaders for this enterprising discussion that we will hold in a few minutes. So just a reminder to all of our attendees on YouTube, we will be conducting a Q&A session towards the end of today's discussion. So if you have any questions for our panelists, please feel free to use the chat box on YouTube. And on your behalf, I will pose certain questions to the speakers directly. Alternatively, you could also send us your questions over email. So with that, a brief introduction about Creating Values. Creating Values is an ISO certified management consulting firm, and we provide our advisory services to organizations across industries. The domains in which we provide our consulting services include people and culture, which is our HR advisory arm, technology and risk is our IT consulting arm, business strategy consulting, brand strategy consulting, and executive search consulting. In 7 years of operations, we have already completed more than 225 plus projects. We have worked for more than 15 industries, and we are proud to have a repeat order rate as high as 90%. So if you have any questions about the kind of services that we are providing, or rather the kind of synergies and partnerships that we can build together, please get in touch with either Mr. Vivek Shastri or with me, and we will be happy to walk you through the same. So a reminder to all of our attendees about our next week's webinar, which is scheduled on 11th of September at 4 p.m. The topic is future-proofing your workforce with enhanced learning and development practices. So we will be joined by business leaders and HR leaders who will be talking about how the face of training and development has changed over the years, how it's evolving, and what are the best practices that now they are adopting in order to keep pace with the changing business environment as well as the talent demands. So with that note, I'll be starting today's discussion, but with a quick introduction of our speakers. So today's panel discussion is on the topic Business Resilience powered by IT Cost Optimization. IT cost optimization is a business-focused, continuous discipline to drive spending and cost reduction while maximizing business value. Organizations must be focused on building a cost optimization roadmap, keeping in mind enterprises' technology requirements and overarching business objectives. So we have with us Mr. Abhijit Dey, Senior Vice President, Information Systems from Genus Power Infrastructure Limited, a dedicated IT professional with over 30 years in the industry, exhibiting versatile leadership and technical competencies. He excels in resolving IT challenges with innovative solution systems and process improvements proven to increase efficiency, customer satisfaction, and the bottom line. The list of his expertise is actually quite long, but to name a few, he possesses in-depth knowledge of networking, IT security, data center, application development, SAP, team management, mentoring, ISO standards, etc. We have also been joined by Mr. Anurag Saxena, the head of IT at Biba Apparels Private Limited. He comes with 26 years of rich experience in the industries of apparel retail, pharma and life sciences, chemical, textile, paper, etc. He has successfully conceptualized and executed complex projects across IT architectures and legacy systems. At Biba, he is responsible for the overall IT strategy formulation and implementation. He has been instrumental in leading IT interventions with a focus on cost optimization. Our next speaker is Mr. Anshul Dureja, the MD and CEO of Creating Values Private Limited. He has been a technocrat for most of his professional journey, Apart from being a CIO in his previous organization, he handled 5 other business global roles, including HR and sustainability. He's a sought after speaker at multiple IT and business forums. He's also a happiness coach. We call him the Chief Enablement Officer at Creating Values. It is my privilege to interact with these esteemed dignitaries and to moderate today's panel discussion. I will now request our speakers to turn on their camera and to unmute themselves as and when the questions are posed to them. So the first question is for our speakers, Mr. Abhijit and Mr. Anurag. We could start with Mr. Anurag first. So current times have encouraged organizations to focus on cost-effective measures. What are some areas where an IT function is focusing on this front?
Thank you, Sujata, for the introduction. And though there has to be a systematic approach, maybe we can discuss it later. But to answer your question particularly, I think there are few major areas, especially during the pandemic, which we focused on, can definitely optimize the cost of IT and effectively, increase the EBITDA also. So first thing is, if we have in-house deployment of resources, I think we should adopt for shared services, right? It's the best method as of now because shared services are available at reasonable prices. So, and you can find a lot of expertise in terms of shared services. So be it maybe sharing services of accounts or maybe HR or any department, maybe in fact IT also. So readily available shared services are there on the basis of man hours or maybe man days. So you can eliminate that 100% resource allocation cost and shift to shared services. Apart from this, I think cloud we have to think over what all can be shifted to cloud instead of having an on-premise cost, which I clearly means like whenever there is an initiative which is in pipeline or maybe which is already been implemented, just find out whether the cloud services is available for that particular initiative or maybe for that particular domain. So because a lot of cost effective cloud services are also available. Like I'm talking about what all steps I had taken to save a huge amount of cost. So I'm just sharing a couple of them. Second one is the cloud services. Third one is I think we should optimize the workforce also by using different type of chatbots, which we are actively using, which can be intelligent chatbots, which can be virtual chatbots also, because it is going to reduce the workload of existing workforce. Fourth could be which is a very important factor is the identify what all capex are in place. One, if you have not invested, convert them all those capex into opex, right? The moment you convert those capex into opex, definitely first is you are distributing the capex cost into opex cost. Maybe the capex cost, if you distribute it, I'm 100% sure maybe that will split up into maybe 3-4 years of opex cost. So that directly you are saving almost 75% of the capex cost. So these are typical low hanging fruits which you can act upon, and they will not take much time. Maybe in a week's time you can implement all these 4 initiatives. So this is my viewpoint on this. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Anurag. And yes, it shows that the kind of focus that even you have on this front for cost optimization. So the same question to Mr. Abhijit, that, what are some of the, interventions within your organization or how IT is focusing on bringing in cost effective measures within the company?
Sujata, first of all, I must thank you for inviting me and giving us such a beautiful words for my introduction. So it makes me feel a little polite, rather, I should put it this way.
Certainly, it
Yes,
is.
what Mr. Anurag was telling is absolutely right. So I would take a cue from his points. So, like, first thing is he has mentioned about capex to opex. So that is one area where one must look very seriously into it, because at this point in time, we always, as an organization, as a management, we must look into the feature that how can we reduce the fixed cost. So that's a major component where we have taken up loading, like, fixed cost contributes many things like salary and other stuff. So look at the workforce. So if you can, he has also mentioned about the shared services instead of having your own, but sometimes it depends on the scale of economy, on what scale of economy you are working. So and converting at this crisis time is also a little difficult, but there are many areas where we have taken up initiatives. Like one is the telecom, the communication part. So I must thank the telecom and ISP companies. They came forward really, and we have substantially be able to reduce the communication and connectivity cost. So that's one area. Second thing is that what also he has told very categorically, that data center infrastructure. See, if one has not taken up having some projects in hand for the, which is the data center intensive implementation, so they should seriously look into the cloud, but with a word of caution, cloud is not cheap. So one must understand that cloud is not cheap. So you have to design the cloud architecture in such a way that you should reap the right benefit. Because I know there are examples, companies have gone bankrupt by going into cloud. So we have to be very careful. But one major point, because the very paradigm of working has changed. So there is no perimeter actually there no more. So like perimeter, and it is diluted. I would say the perimeter is diluted. The people who used to work inside, now they're working from home like me. So the security part has to be taken care. I think we are lucky enough to have invested earlier quite a good enough amount of resources in security, so that we have not been able to be, but there are points where it's a word of caution in the name of cost saving. One must be very careful about today's time. So security is one feature we should not be compromising in the name of cost saving. So other things definitely we should think into.
Surely. So there'll always be a list of must-haves and nice-to-haves.
Nice line. Like, we consider as an organization, we consider definitely there is a amount of cost center. IT is considered to be a cost center, but thanks to the management, people are thinking like it's more of an investment for the growth rather than cost. So because without that, we cannot survive at this kind of world today.
So the mindset shift has certainly happened, and I'm sure pandemic has motivated that mindset shift.
A lot of positive flip sides we have received actually out of that.
Okay, so with that, I'll move to my next question, and the next question is for Mr. Anshul. Mr. Anshul, when the times are tough, everyone wants to cut costs, and at times IT costs become pretty visible, even as Mr. Abhijit has just mentioned. So a lot also depends on how do we view these IT costs. Do we think of them as expenditures or as optimization efforts? So what are your views on the same? Mr. Anshul, you're on mute.
Thank you, Sujata. Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay, great. First of all, I would like to welcome Abhijit and Anurag both to the weekly webinar, which we always do, and thanks for accepting our invite. I am filling in the blanks for Vivek, who unfortunately fell ill. So I really don't know whether I would be able to do it justice like him, but I will try to do my best, what all I can. Sujata, you asked a very, I would say, very relevant and pertinent questions in terms of the IT cost. Unfortunately, of what all I have seen, both as a CIO first and now as a CIO advisor, IT cost is one cost which is very, very visible, unfortunately, which gets very visible, particularly in the eyes of everybody within the management, be it the CEO, MD, or CFO. So there are multiple aspects to it, and I will try to share some of my learnings over the period of years. But personally speaking, I would say I don't believe in cost savings, to be honest, because reduction in budgets doesn't mean savings. We may have a choice of reducing cost. Yes, we should reduce cost. There shouldn't be overspend. But while cutting it down, we really need to be very clear in terms of that, are we going to be ruthless in terms of cutting down everything, or are we really going to go on a structured route? Anurag said cloud could be optional. Abhijit said at times cloud is not a cost-cutting tool. It is more of an efficiency enabler rather than a cost-cutting tool. And I would say I would agree with both of them in their diverse points. Why I say so? Because for some organization, they might be already on a licensing arrangement or a agreement wherein cloud may be making a sense. But on the second side, there may be another company which is on another licensing arrangement. For them, cloud is making less sense. So it would always be varying based on your requirements. So we cannot really say that cloud is a cost-saving option or cloud is not a cost-saving option. It all depends on the organization landscape and their purchasing, how they have purchased their agreements. But while we are on IT cost, I think we also need to see that IT cost savings is for what. Let's take an example of an industry. I would rather go with the Anurag industry because that is much more familiar to all of us. Biva is a brand name, so I'm sure they would be having some manufacturing, some contract manufacturing. We know when we go to shop into malls through their fantastic retail stores. And it has created its niche in the brand space already in terms of the fashion and the retail market. Now, I'm sure post the COVID, they would have now seen a drastic change in terms of their online sales as compared to what they were prior to COVID. And I'm sure, I really don't know, I haven't spoken to Anurag on this already, but I'm sure Anurag, whenever he used to go earlier for budgets, I think it would be much more easier for him because he is now taking Biva digital. So I think if you are able to contribute to digital, enhancing the revenues of the organization while you are a CIO or in a technology role, budgets would always be there. One last point I would say, cost should always be structured. Cost reduction should always be structured. The problem though is that the cost reduction isn't structured, and that's the biggest problem. We need to make that. I'm just taking a small example before I end my thoughts. Let's take an example of licenses. As per one of the research Creating Values did last year, nearly 58% of the CIOs reported that they have bought licenses on which they are not using even more than 50% of the features. So now I won't say that they did a mistake because how IT industry works is it is more governed by the OEMs rather than by the customers. So how the packs have been made, licensing packs have been made, too many features have been loaded, no base packs, so very seldom you get something at a base level at a lower price point. So you eventually end up buying a superpower elephant without even using the real tusk of that elephant. So once you go, you would eventually go and buy a lot more than you need, not eventually in the numbers, but probably in the weight it carries along with it. So these are some of the areas I think the industry needs to be innovative. It's not only left to the CIOs alone, and I would bet for both CIOs and OEMs. I think somewhere down the line that mid-level approach has to come wherein we see more innovative pricing mechanisms across the IT landscape. I think those are my initial thoughts to start with.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Anshul. And yes, so leveraging IT becomes the first priority prior to we even thinking about cost reduction or cost optimization. So thank you for those views. Just a quick point to Mr. Anshul. Actually, your voice is, going high and at times lowering on its own. So you might have to be a little careful during your next response to us.
So is COVID cases.
No, they are just going on high.
Okay, I would try to do it justice. Okay.
Sure, thank you. So my next question is again first directed to Mr. Anurag and then to Mr. Abhijit. Mr. Anurag, IT itself is in midst of a huge transformation to go digital. And with possible budget cuts, it will be a difficult path to charter. How do you see organization like yours able to overcome such hurdles?
Okay, before I answer that question, I think I should inform in terms of, going digital. In 2014, we started our journey with e-commerce, right? So Biva.in was the first online fashion retail portal in India, apart from those big brand names, who has gone online in 2014. So at that time, the ratio of our online sales versus offline sales was 90 is to 10%, because 10% is the offline sale and 90% is, 90% is the offline sale and 10% was online sale. Now, because of those efforts which we put in 2014 and gradually, enhanced our platform, digital platform to couple of, more enhancement in terms of user interface, customer experience, recommendation engines, and all those things, we were able to, convert our ratio almost vice versa. During the pandemic, because offline stores were almost closed, so we were able to do almost 100% sale. When the lockdown opens, we were having a backlog of 15,000 orders which need to be processed, which means people who were there in the lockdown have continuously done the shopping on the online. So that edge we got from going digital in advance, right? As on date, also I think 80% of the stores are open now, but still the ratio is 60:40. 60% of the revenue we are getting from e-commerce and 40% of the revenue we are getting from offline stores. So this is one part. Apart from this, there are several initiatives which we took as our digital journey. Because it is normally not visible to customer, but we track the entire customer right from maybe online or offline stores. The moment he visits us, how much time he spends on our stores, and based on the heat map, how much time he spends on respective areas. So at that level, we have already gone digital, right? Now the thing is, obviously, digital is an OPEX cost to you. CapEx we had already invested, but for each and every individual activities, be it customer experience, be it your customer journey from online to offline, or maybe omni-channel, everywhere you have a cost associated while you go to digital. So fortunately, because we are one of the largest player in going digital, we have an edge over the others, and we were able to negotiate better with all our vendors. So you will not believe, still there are some subscriptions which are almost zero as of now. So all those vendors have given us a lean period. After that also, the cost is allocated in terms of 30% you have to pay for next 6 months, maybe 60% then next 3 months, so and so forth. So for at least 1 year, we already have a cost split up, and which is if I sum all together, we will be hardly paying 40% of our total digital cost to all the vendors. So vendors are also flexible during this pandemic, but yes, the best way is to negotiate with them, and I think they are ready to come onto the table and negotiate with you. So as of now, customer has an edge over the vendors for going digital. So I think, and apart from this is the high time those companies which are planning their digital journey should start immediately, because they will get a best cost. Like if you take the example of Microsoft Teams or other, Microsoft Office 365, during pandemic only for the first time they had given 6 months or 3 months subscription free. Right. So I think this is the best time you should start your digital journey, and definitely you will get a better cost irrespective of whatever type of digital transformation you are going to have. So you are definitely on an edge to do the digital.
Great. So it's not just the need of the hour, but also a right time to embark on the digital journey when it comes to cost being a major factor. So
That's right.
thank you for those views. So Mr. Abhirajit, the same question to you, that IT itself is in a huge transformation to go digital. So what about cost cutting and budget cuttings, and what's the impact, and how do you overcome such hurdles?
Let me put it first, my point of view about the digitalization part of it. Our story is a little different, because once you are into B2C kind of environment, digital conversion experience, or what you call DX or CX, is more visible, because you are directly hitting to the customer on the web portal, and you are actually directly dealing with the customer, and you are selling it to the customer. But ours is, we manufacture energy meters, and our sales are mostly institutional sales through tenders and other stuff. So our digital journey is more of an inbound kind of thing. like internally how we are converting our processes into digital processes. Like as he has Mr. Anurag has already put in that capex is already in the place. Now how you are going to get the juice out of that capex in the form of digitalization is the key. And he is right, the vendors are ready at this point in time to give you the best of their offers, so we should grab that. That's the first thing. Second point what I would like to mention about it is that as a CIO or as a head of IT or as a role of IT in our organization, we strongly believe that digitalization is not an IT process. Digitalization is not an IT initiative. It's about a change in the way we do business, whether it is internally or externally. That's the way we think about it. And we have started very humbly. We have made a very humble approach. A couple of years. See, like if you are the moment you say that your procure to pay process is online, we are digital already, and we have done it quite a few years back. So digital journey has started the day you have started using SAP, or the day you have started, and we are having our Google as our partner for the collaboration, and that is heavily now inculcating because of this pandemic, which has given a huge boost. And that the way we are now discussing on Zoom, the same thing is being used for. I can give you the statistics, what the kind of things, the very paradigm of collaboration, the meaning of exchange of data has changed internally in the organization. Third initiative, what we have taken, that we are now onto the journey. We have started already. What Mr. Anurag has said, this is the right time. So what we are trying to do, we are trying to map the business processes which will be immediately can be converted into digital process, so that a few things are benefited. Like we can hit our fixed cost, cycle time will be reduced, and accuracy of the production or accuracy to the customer experience will be improved. We have defined 9 KPIs for this digitalization process, internal improvement of course, and which will definitely impact the external impact in our customer. Because once you are not directly hitting, because our customers are coming in a different way altogether. Our customer servicing is altogether, it is different. Like if I have a batch traceability in our product, I give them the product number and I get to see that what are the components. It's like 500 component goes into a meter, or 600 component goes into the meter, which is those are the digitalization we are doing internally, so that our internal efficiency is improved and we serve our customer better. And of course, the cost comes into the picture. As I said in the beginning itself, we have already made the investment. Certain incremental investment on capex has to be done, but mostly digitalization process is driven and fulfilled by an opex journey, and this is the right time to take the market's benefit. That's our take on this.
Sujata, just to add one more thing, like when Abhijit was discussing, like I was having a plan of implementing IoT in my stores almost 2.5 years back, right? But because of the huge cost, I have postponed this to maybe next financial year. We will do it because we have got 400 plus stores, right? So then, fortunately, after post-pandemic, we started that journey with 2 of the very good industry-known vendors of IoT with our stores. So we started the installation and implementation. And if you will not believe, almost we are able to save 40 to 45% of the cost, which was already planned as a capex.
So that's what I was trying to tell, that internal digitalization will be the key for the cost savings. Because at the end of the day, if you can, the way he said that if I can have a perfect accuracy of my stores and inventory, I'll have a control on my customer servicing in the whole value chain. So very rightly said, Mr. Anurag. So these are the areas we should think
that
of.
That was the point I was trying to say initially, that Anurag would be the most happiest amongst all the CIOs.
Thank you.
Okay, so thank you, speakers, for sharing your views on this question. I'll move to my next question. First, the question is directed to Mr. Anurag, and then I will move to Mr. Anshul. Mr. Anurag, having a well-structured IT strategy roadmap is now a must-have for companies to become resilient. What are some of the main points to consider while designing IT strategies and where to begin with?
See, I'll tell you, we almost have a 5-year roadmap at any point in time, right? So nobody has anticipated that there will be a pandemic like a situation, right? So yes, of course, whenever you start your IT strategy roadmap, so you have to refer to a business plan, right? That is first thing. Unless until you have a well drafted, well documented, and well approved business plan. So every IT strategy and cost has to be linked with the business plan. So like we were having some mission in 2020. Unfortunately, we were not able to achieve. So that mission was already decided in 2017, right? So 2017 strategy was having a plan of mission 2020. I think most of the corporate have this type of plans in terms of business. Then accordingly, the IT strategy is formed. So at least to start with, it is a premature organization or maybe a small organization, one has to start with a business plan. Second thing is you should have a baseline ready with you in terms of like there are couple of pillars which are must nowadays. One is our application pillar, right? Second is your IT infrastructure pillar. Second is your third is your networking, and fourth is your information security, right? Without without these four pillars, you won't be able to define your IT strategy. And definitely identify these four pillars, and identify the weightage you want to put in these four pillars based on your nature of business. Okay, for example, like maybe a company who is having a core business of data should focus more on information security, data security than on the applications, right? So like companies of us have to have both of them. We have to ensure the data privacy also of the customer, and we have to ensure that our customers have a very good journey in terms of customer experience. So you have to identify these four pillars accordingly. Apart from this, obviously cost is a parameter. So you have to get the broad cost approved from the board. Like almost all the CIO or maybe head of IT are part of boards. So when the business plan is being drafted, so obviously you should have a cost also discussed with them. Get the approved cost, divide those costs into these pillars, right? Draft a complete digital IT strategy roadmap, right? Based on maybe first into a year plan. A year has to be bifurcated into half yearly, then quarterly, then monthly. If it's better if you can, though it is slightly critical and impossible, but if you can fortnightly or come zero down to week by week, right? Formalize complete IT strategy against the business plan, map it with the business plan, show it to management, get the approval. This is the ideal situation, right? Now let's come to the pandemic part. So what I did was I took out the complete my IT strategy roadmap from let's say March when the pandemic started till my year end, which is March 2021. I identifies, what all planned capex were there, what all planned opexes were there. I'm talking about the plant. Apart from this, we have a fixed opex cost also. Planned opex means, for example, I have planned, like I told you that I have a plan of implementing IoT, right? So IoT have a capex also, and it has a opex also. So you identify all those. What I did, I'm telling you, we identify clearly what planned capex are there, what planned opex are there, and what fixed operating costs are there, right? So we attack one by one. To this planned capex, we have to do it yes or no. Sit with the board, sit with the management, sit with the actual user in the sense the actual department who's going to get this benefit, right? Whether it is critical or whether it is not critical. Based on this, you say yes, you say no. Summarize each and everything after discussing with all the business process owners, right? Again, go to the board, ask them, this is the situation. At least we know the fund position, right? From CIO perspective, most of the CIOs have a clear visibility of the cash flow, right? So map it with the frequency of the cash flow, get it approved, and do the execution. Apart from this, right, like I focus more on my OpEx cost, got it negotiated. Like I said, if you will ask me in terms of absolute numbers, maybe I would have saved maybe 80-90 lakhs during the pandemic period, right? Only from the OpEx itself. Some OpEx were clearly visible that, while the stores are closed, you are not going to get any benefit out of it. So it's almost zero. Then you have, how many stores will get open, what will the frequencies. Some are converted into revenue models. For example, if you have a fixed rental model, you tell them clearly it has to be converted into revenue generate model. I'm talking about specific to my industry, right? So there are various means wherein you can replan your IT roadmap, replan your IT strategy, replan your spendings. It purely in some factors also depend on the nature of business. For example, if you would have been in pharma industry, I think you should have to spend more, especially during the pandemic, right? And apart from this, like especially in case of our fashion industry, because we have got good amount of data privacy, so you have to ensure that while negotiating or while redrafting the business roadmap, no compromise on information security. So that was the prime objective, and we have never, reduced even 1% on that front.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Anurag. Yes, rightly said. It depends on industry. And also, the pandemic has called in for a realignment, a relook in your IT strategy roadmap. So the same question to Mr. Anshul, having a well-structured IT strategy roadmap is a must-have for companies to become resilient. So what are the main points to consider and where to begin with?
Okay. Sujata, just interrupting whenever you feel like my audio is doing a sine wave again, but I would try. It's not a sine wave.
Well, currently a little bit.
Currently?
Now it's okay.
Little better. Okay, good. Thank you, Sujata. So in my view, I would say making IT strategy is very simple and very complex at the same time. Why I say so? Because it is the makers who make it either simple or complex. The strategy itself is a strategy. Nobody could have predicted COVID, so all strategies went haywire. Whether it's a business strategy, IT strategy is only a very small component of it. Even what Anurag was saying, every company has 2020 or these sorts of goals and I would say strategies to achieve. I think everything gone for a toss. But yes, I would say strategies are simple. I think we as the makers of the strategy may have a fault or may eventually conquer it, but strategies are strategies. More important than the strategy is execution, because they are the very, very complex. How do you execute is the key of successful ratio. It tells you the successful ratio of your strategy. So we can only debate about it, but eventually it's the execution which would tell whether a strategy is passed or failed. Now, to make a strategy, the question which you asked, Sujata, what all companies should really think about, I would say there are a couple of ways how strategies could be made, and any company is free to choose either of these two options. The first is that the IT team thinks, okay, I know my own landscape, we know our own landscape, we have been into this organization for years, and who knows better than us, because we are the ones who really have built it. So let us use our own knowledge to build that landscape of ours and develop the strategy. I know my business well, I know my technology landscape well, so I would use that level of I would say plateau of knowledge I carry to make a strategy roadmap. The second option is to have conducted externally. In that, I would say there would be a third party which you would deploy and who would come and probably do a quick assessment of your landscape, and based on that, they would do some findings. 90% of it would still be the same, I would say, which any company, IT team or the business teams already know, because eventually this is your own company. But the real value comes from the less than 10% which they would be able to take out, which probably you are not aware of. So if you see from a cost versus value perspective, that 10% is the value. Now, once you have done that IT health assessment, now comes the time wherein you start building the landscape. So first of all, you would require a business vision. Where does your business really wants to go? Do you have a strategy in place for your business? If it's there, fantastic. But if it's not there, don't lose your heart. You should still have an IT strategy. I think probably it could be a reverse loop wherein if you develop your own IT strategy, the CEO would be forced to think if IT can develop, why not I have my business strategy? So I would rather suggest to do the other way rather than the plain way. Now, once you are able to do that, then the big next question is, what do we do from a customer perspective? Anurag just talked about customer. The customer idea, the customer, how do you do a customer service and needs to be taken in place? I would say both customer and partner ecosystem. You cannot deploy your data centers in a remote Tamil Nadu area or hypothetically any other area wherein there is no partner servicing. So your entire strategies should be aligned across your consumer, your partner ecosystem, and the support ecosystem which you would desire. The biggest critical piece is that any roadmap should also have key inputs from the business functions. IT roadmap is not owned by IT. Its execution is only owned by IT. IT roadmap ownership lies with the business. Execution of the IT roadmap lies with IT. I think that distinction really has to be very, very sacrosanct in any organization. Now, once you decide that you are going to have that business ecosystems inputs being taken, that is again where the third party who's developing your strategy would really be useful, because more or less times I think it gets otherwise diluted within a simple scheme of things within any organizations. So I think these business inputs are very, very key. Then comes the point wherein what sort of a horizon you are looking for. So ideally, I think it's a 3 to 5 years of a horizon you should look at in terms of your IT strategy. I would generally put my money on 3 years, not more than 3 years in today's world. Even if you ask me today in 2021, not more than 2 at any cost, particularly when all businesses, all consumer mindsets, all these business pieces are coming up after the pandemic or during the, we are still in the we are not post the pandemic now. The last piece is in terms of execution. And that is something which is very, very key. As I said initially, I would rather put my money on a 70% execution of a roadmap, which has not more than 10 action enables. So try to do less, limited, but far more effective. A 70% execution of 10 action enable is far, far good and result oriented than a 30% execution of 20 action enables. So I would say, let's not try to do overdo things in terms of a strategy roadmap. We should focus on creating effective execution rather than too much implementation and action enables. That is my point of thoughts.
I have a point to add here. What Anshul is telling, like, see, it's very important that that what Anurag also has told, that the 2020 vision was there and everything has gone haywire because of this pandemic. We have revisited and must have, nice to have, and not to have. We have listed out and we revisited the entire IT strategy, and deployment plan has been revisited. But one thing I personally believe over the years with the gray hairs of industry experience and all, that the strategy should be having a rolling window. What Anshul is telling, that today's ever-changing technology scenario, that if I have a fixed thing, so like, today I have got a 3 years plan, and in the middle of 3 years, like 18 months down the line, whatever you have thought might have changed. So revisit the thing, revisit the entire strategy, revisit the business plan as well, and realign your IT strategy to fit in, to get the best value out of it. And extremely valid point, take up vital fuse and execute to the best. That's the most important thing for the IT strategy to be fixed up. And one most important thing, what I strongly believe, that that ecosystem, what you have mentioned very rightly. As a CIO, I get nightmares if my partners are not performing properly. I am rather more, it's like, just simple. I know Anurag will vouch for my words. Like, if the connectivity is not working properly, his boss will go for haywire.
Yes.
His boss will go for, and his business is going to go. So partners and the resilience, the BCP part of it, the business continuity planning part of it, should be ingrained in every steps of an IT strategy. Great. I believe so. That's my thought.
So quite varied and quite inline points shared by our speakers. So thank you very much. And I'm sure the professional network that will view this panel discussion would pick up cues in developing their own strategy roadmap the right way. So with that, I will move to my next question. First, directed to Mr. Abhirajit and then move to Mr. Anshul. Mr. Abhirajit, there has been a lot of noise on huge cost of licenses as well as their support costs. So what is your take when it comes to the licensing cost?
I have already told about it. The licensing cost is, if you would like to drive a car, you have to buy a car. There is no alternative to that. So you cannot have a car with 3 wheels. At least you have to have 4 wheels. And to have a business continuity, you have to have a stepney also, right? So overall framework of your business need, you have decided and you have gone for some licensing part of it. But most of the cases, what Anshul was telling, you buy something, thanks to the partners again, and they come up with a bill of materials, which out of that 50%, you're not going to use it. That's the catch. That's the catch. Actually, license cost is not huge. If you do right sizing, and if you understand what business you are digitalizing or converting into IT, it makes sense to have a capex part of it, and then you find out how you are getting the juice out of that. Like today, if I am for last 20-21 years, I am using SAP. Right, SAP is known to be one of the very expensive application, right, and its maintenance cost is also very high. But if you know most of the places, if you know SAP being a monolithic application, people are not may not be able to use the business process. What we do, instead of changing the business processes, we try to change SAP for as per our own business process, what you are doing now. So there we make the mistake. So if you really want to know, today is in the cost conscious this thing, like, and if you have some number of licenses of something, I'm not talking about the Windows or CAL or Office or all those things. I'm talking about the application licenses like SAP or whatever you business applications you use or database as such. So we must be very sure that cost, whatever has capex has gone in, we have to make sure that it is being used properly. Now, I'm talking about the old days. Now the SaaS has come in, software as a service. So that is one of the boon for our industry as a whole. If you go for that model, pay whatever you need, pay whatever you use, and that's going to optimize your cost for application licenses. And that's my take on this, actually.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Abhirajit. So, Mr. Anshul, the same question to you about software licenses cost as well as the support costs that go with it. So what are your takes?
Sujata, it's an interesting question because nowadays lots of noise is coming all across and lots of voices are getting raised in terms of the cost of licenses are very huge. Truly speaking, they were already very huge. So there is nothing new in that. Their support costs are also huge. It hovers between, I think, 12% to 25% or 15% to 25% across. And I'm not being specific to any OEM. Generally speaking, across all OEMs, support cost is roughly around 15% to 25%, and they are pretty high. They were always very high. It is not something that they have just. They are now becoming more visible because of the business disruptions being caused and the financial stress being or showered on the companies. Otherwise, they were already very high, and there were many voices which were raised initially also. Now they have gained momentum. But I think one of the very practical thing, just because some CIOs or maximum CIOs are saying OEMs would reduce their cost, I really don't think so. Do I desire it? Yes, I would certainly desire it. But do I feel it would get reduced? Possible licenses? I really don't think so. Let's see cost from a very different point of view. Abhirajit rightly said SaaS has changed a lot of paradigm. When I would say me and Abhirajit used to have black hair, so at that point of time, there was nothing called a SaaS or a subscription-based licenses. It was all perpetual licenses. In fact, we only knew perpetual licenses because there was no model. I think in over the last decade, since when the cloud and the SaaS has come up, there has been a tectonic shift of technology from on-premise to cloud, and also their applicable licensing from perpetuality to subscription-based model. Now, if we see clearly, a subscription-based model of licensing is far more profitable for any software OEM. Trust me, any, because for two factors. Perpetual means you can use it till eternity, till the time your company exists. The second loss which the companies were facing was in terms of no transparency, how many licenses you have currently deployed and how many licenses you have bought. With cloud, both of these things are sorted out. So it's a more profitable for OEMs to have annual subscription-based model rather than perpetual. There are a number of OEMs now which have finally ended everything perpetual. Why they have ended? It's the simple reason because it makes more of a financial sense for them to go into subscription-based model. So there's a strong business case, but equally there's a strong business case for cost optimizations to happen. Now, rather than saying, okay, OEM should reduce or clients should pay, my take is that there should be something in between. What it could be in between is to build on trust. At times, I have seen that some of the customers don't have trust on some of the OEMs, and some could be any rational number. I really don't know. Abhijit and Anurag can really pitch in. I can't be in a midway situation. But I think from an OEM side, I think one side has been lackluster, which really needs to be improved on. These OEMs, through their sales, have become a sales engine. I think somewhere down the line, they have forgotten that they also need to show the value of the stuff they are selling. I think I meet so many clients, so many CIOs. Everybody, I would say most of them struggles or probably are struggling to find out the value which they could internally justify on the cost they are paying for those licenses. I think that is the key piece. So what could be done is in terms of the OEMs could become more innovative in the way they structure the entire packaging. I think I raised that point initially. You cannot put everything together and probably say, okay, this is so much cost. I need this much. I think that flexibility should be there. If I could reduce my hard disk space and a RAM allocation over Azure, easily with a click of a button, I should be able to choose my own licensing agreements. I think that is point number one. Point number two is in terms of my payment structures. The OEMs could play on this in terms of the payment structure, probably deferred model for a period of time or a segregated model over a period of years, something what Anurag was initially saying for some of the other question of yours. I think with these pieces, this is more doable. And this would ensure a more win-win for both OEMs and clients. Otherwise, this debate is not going to make any sense other than this.
But deferment will not reduce, is not a cost reduction engine initiative basically.
Sorry, Abhijit, not able to hear you.
I'm telling that this when we talk about deferment of payments and other thing, that may save the interest part on top of the expenditure, but it is not a cost-saving initiative. But what you
it's
write,
not.
It's not.
I agree. I agree with you, but at least something is better than nothing because it's very unlikely that your direct cost would get saved.
And that's happening anyway, and OEMs have taken steps forward for that.
Yeah, just like if you pay support cost of a licenses, you have to pay upfrontly. Now, can it be done in midway scenario? Probably after 6 months, so that you and the OEM could do midway. So I'm saying these sorts of innovations in these, so that everybody, we all have to coexist. Right. IT industry has to coexist. If there is no money, these OEMs would also have a loss. Companies are already making a loss. So somewhere down the line, I think that flexibility needs to come.
The trust is the most important thing. That's what you're right.
Great. So yes, we are all a part of the same ecosystem and we all have to coexist. So the pandemic is one opportunity that has taught everyone that how, bigger players, smaller players, partners, customers, companies, all are working together to bring in a value-driven culture. What is it that we offer to each other and how do we coexist and work together? So that is an interesting learning from this pandemic. So with that, I move to my next question, and that question is common to all these panelists. So we could start with Mr. Anurag, move to Mr. Abhijit, and then end with Mr. Anshul. Mr. Anurag, what as per you could be the avenues for cost optimization that organizations can get into?
I think like workforce management, right? There are lots of options available, like which I have implemented during the pandemic also. intelligent bots are available. So you can explore that one area. Second thing is, I think as on date also, during the pandemic also, and maybe post pandemic also, maybe a couple of more 6 to 8 months, you can always negotiate your OPEX part, sorry. So negotiate that OPEX. You are having an edge as of now. Do this at least, if not for continuously, maybe regular one, for 6 to 8 months, you will get a better deal. Apart from this, I think if you have a capacity, or maybe, in case you can plan, please start your digital journey or invest on digital journey. This is the best thing.
Sure. So, Mr. Abhirajit, the same question to you.
Yeah, exactly. I would support him because AI is going to play a big role. AI is going to play a big role for customer support and for other decision making processes. So wherein if you are, I would like to say that this is we do not call IT as our department. That's why we call IS. It's the systems, information systems. It's not the technology piece only. It is beyond that. So we also help to improve the processes of the organization. So there is the key. Actually, in this cost optimization things and other thing, whatever comes into the picture, sometime what we have been discussing in the initial period of the today's discussion, that reducing cost is just like ruthless cost cutting is going to take place, and that we do not know where it is going to leak away. Somewhere some process might get delayed, something might come back. So like, if there is an inaccuracy in a manufacturing box, whatever you are manufacturing, if it comes back and we have to do a rework, that will increase the cost. So we have to be very, very careful about while doing the cost cutting, but at the same point in journey, if you you have to choose the right technology for your usage. Like, we are using NB-IoT maybe for our meter communication, but NB-IoT may not be useful for, don't take it otherwise, for an apparel manufacturer. So it may be, it should be the overkill or something like that, or maybe some other industry, steel plant may not require those kind of things, where in a petrochemical industry you cannot use wireless communication over there. You have to go for fiber optic, because my experience, it was a learning for me when I was working for a petrochemicals company. So like that. So technology is one piece where you have to be very, very careful while you're choosing it, whether it suits your business model or not. That's the first thing. Then workforce optimization. The fixed, that will hit directly the fixed cost. So if you need to do, say, I am not saying that you have to lay off, but my take is that do more with the same, not do same with the less. I'm repeating again, do more with the same, not less with the same. Not the same with the less. So it has to be, workforce optimization is one thing, like, multi-skilling and other stuff, because we are now, previously SAP support team or any application support team used to look like huge. Now it is, role overlapping is taking place. That's one area we should think of it in IS also. A guy who is doing networking management, he should be also capable of managing my firewall. That should be the multi-skilling is also and one area we should think of it, so that you can, that's what, doing more with the same. And process efficiency, last but not the least. IS is, why we call it IS, our team interacts with all the business functions to optimize their business processes. So that's the key. So like today, whatever we are doing in 5 hours, maybe that should be done in 4 hours, that should be done in 3 hours, so that the entire process costs come down with the help of IS. So I think these are the few things if we do, and this digital, in the name of digital journey, we are trying to embark on to these improvements. We hope to have a very good cost efficiency. I should not say cost reduction, I should say cost efficiency.
Great. So, Mr. Anshul, the same question to you. The avenues for cost optimization that organizations can get into. You're on mute, Mr. Anshul.
Yes, Sujata, can you please repeat?
Yeah, what are the avenues for cost optimization that organizations can get into?
Okay. I would surely share, I think, but prior to I share, I think you can get in touch with Anurag and Abhijit, both at Genus and Bieber, because both of these organizations are really looking forward for work for optimization, and you are expert of that. So, but let me say from as a consultant point of view, I would rather answer this avenues of cost optimization technologies. I think both Abhijit and Anurag have very well said. And I would agree with them that I would say sunrise technologies like AI, ML, chatbots, so these are going to rule us. Blockchain itself, I think the next wave of new applications, I think 10 years down the line, probably we would see more than 70% of applications around us would be based on blockchain. So that is my vision for a blockchain-based environment. So whether you discount AI, ML, chatbots, I would say these probably could be technologies which would have a lot of focus within the ecosystems of technology, but blockchain is something which is going to be a game changer in many of the pieces. From a process perspective, I would say Abhijit touched upon this point in terms of that the business processes also wants to have a relook, and I totally agree with him. I think when 10 years back, a decade earlier, when the BPR projects used to happen, the business process re-engineering projects used to happen, technology was probably there, probably not there. It was somewhere in between. But today, if you talk about any BPR, you cannot do without technology. Even if you are changing your purchase to pay process, you are changing your order to cash process, you cannot just remove technology from that perspective. In fact, technology would be much more at the forefront than probably the process functionality in itself. So I would say that is how the technology has shaped up over a period of years. So processes, technology, people. In terms of people, I would say both of them talked about workforce optimization. I think there could be also in terms of, apart from the optimization is generally in regards to the in-house team. I would say probably these every organization based on their own mandate and landscape, they should evaluate should they have in-house manpower, outsourced manpower, or a hybrid model. Some model works for some model. So I'm not going to get into that. I think every organization CIO is sensible enough to choose that. But I think from a process side, I would say 5-6 pieces in addition to technologies and people orientation. I would say the first and foremost is the IT health assessment. I think organizations should really go for IT health optimizations, because that would give them that 10% or a 5% view which they are missing. And that is where I would say the cost is I would say, as I said, the devil is in the details. So probably once you go and look into it, then you probably see. And it has a dual benefit. The IT health assessment doesn't only helps you identify what are the areas where you could reduce, but also in terms of what is the level of your IT maturity within your organization. And trust me, of what all projects I have led along with my team, CIOs themselves have been very surprised in terms of, oh, हमारे यहाँ पे ये भी होता था, oh, हमारे यहाँ पे ये भी नहीं है. So it's both sides of coins probably. And till now, I would be happy to share to our audience that we have helped save organization more than 7 crores in the last 6 years plus. So I think that is the volume. Probably, I think it's not about us. I think any third party which comes from a very unbiased perspective, I think they can really bring in that value. The second is in terms of pencil review of contracts. Again, I would say devil is in the detail. One of the real life examples, we had a number of assignments, and in roughly 70 to 75% of them, I can easily say all terms are tilted against customers. Now the thing is, isn't customers aware? Unfortunately, it's a gray area. More in terms of that, first of all, I'm not very informed. I'm more worried of my BOM, my specifications, and the quantity and the price. Very seldom, I would say, I would personally go, because that is the job of a finance or a purchase guy to go into those terms. But that's a potential, I would say, financial risk which organizations carry. So it is never too late to get pencil reviews conducted on your major contracts. At least if you cover 20% top 20% of your contracts, at least you would be sure of, okay, I know this risk and I can very well mitigate in my next renewal dates. The third is shared services. Anurag very well said in terms of the shared services model to be implemented. Shared services not only helps you optimize your manpower, but also I would say reduce a lot of cost also. and make more or your entire landscape more automated and the ecosystem more efficient. So without doubt, I agree with Anurag on that. Next are something in terms of lessons assessments. I talked about network assessment, IT cost optimization. So these are some of the pieces which happen. Last two, I would say, project management cost. And it's a very, very interesting avenue with very few people in the industry talk about. More than 38% of all IT projects, as per our research last year, were stretched beyond stipulated time. 38% of IT projects. Delay means if they are stretching, there is a huge amount of project cost also which gets burdened onto the organization. Now, there's a very simple solution to plug those leaks. Either you get an entity who does the project management for you, or you have equally capable personnel within your team who can do those project management for you. The amount you pay to those people or the external firm will be a fraction of the cost you would be eventually paying or leaking out onto the projects which get stretched. And this is a astonishing figure. Not many people talk about it, but I think project management costs are one of the easily, I would say, pluggable cost in the IT ecosystem. My last piece, I was a CIO for 6 years, and that too was 7 years back. In my heydays, I would say now it's Vivek and Sujata's heydays. But when I used to be a CIO, I always used to look for avenues to seek unbiased advisory, and there was none available. So avenues at those times, and I'm sure it's even though are in terms of I would say either you can go to the OEMs or you go to partners, your vendors, your peers in the industry, but very seldom you get some structured advice. I think we at time overjudge ourselves as CIOs. We are CIOs, we are not Superman. So at those point of time, we didn't have anything. But I think lack of avenues to seek advisory is one of the areas. I think when we started creating values, I was very clear in terms of that we have to be OEM agnostic and partner agnostic. And I'm sure there are multiple companies like us who do the same. I think there is the cost of a misjudgment of a decision is more than the cost of a trusted advisor, I would say. So that's a point with which I would like to end it, Sujata.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Anshul, and apologies for the loud doorbell. There are every Friday we inform our maid not to come in before 5:30, but she doesn't listen. So
you should put a nameplate out there.
Okay, so with that, we'll be soon moving to our Q&A session. But just a reminder to all of our attendees that next week on 11th of September, we'll be having our HR Cubinar, which is future-proofing your workforce with enhanced L&D practices. Please do join us for that Cubinar as well. And we have pre-received certain questions for our panelists today. So I will be, directing those questions one by one to our panelists. Let me start with the first question, which has been directed to Mr. Abrajit. Mr. Abrajit, organizations have adopted a hybrid model for IT operations, with the core team being in-house, supported by external partners. What are the practices followed by you as the IT leader for your organization?
Very interesting question. So, yes, we have adopted, definitely. We have definitely adopted about this hybrid model, what you said. Like, few part of the manpower we have outsourced, definitely, and that outsourcing is done for our application development areas, where we can easily get the skilled manpower for those particular areas. So that is giving result, definitely. But the management part of it, definitely, what Anshul has very clearly said, that regular contract review, and before you make the contract, you have to have your understanding very clear with the partner when you are shaking your hand. You should know that what you are expecting and what he is expecting out of this particular deal. These are the two major things. And then what we do is that before the deployment of the external resources, we personally do a round of what you call interview and understanding about the capability of that person being put over there for the task. Secondly, most important, one should have an NDA, proper NDA in place, because companies like us, we are working on many IPs. We do not have take any designs from anybody else. So we are using our own design. So NDA has to be very in place, and then a clear undertaking has to be taken from the outsourced person. So these are the few things we do for the management of one, but that is substantially effective model. You have got a flexibility, not only on IS, we have got in our manufacturing line also, we call it ramp up, ramp down. Depending on the workload, we do that. And that's a culture in our organization.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Abhijit, for sharing your views on this question. So next question is to Mr. Anurag. Can there be planned and structured cost reductions or optimization instead of ad hoc methods which are followed, and how should they be?
You should never have ad hoc method to cost optimization. Like during our discussions, we said like you always, at least, it depends on company to company. Like I normally manage 3 years strategy. Every before the beginning of new financial year, we have a business plan for the coming year and next 3 years. So it is revisited, and accordingly the IT strategy and cost is being planned. But since you have a completely documented cost and IT strategy plan, you can focus on relevant area, right? So you have a complete business, like you have a complete blueprint of your cost. So it's very easy to plan, identify, and attack the respective area rather than just throwing a ball saying that I have a telecom rental. Can I explore it whether it get reduced or not? Then you will realize that for unfortunately you have a lock-in period also which you have signed in the agreement, right? So you should always have a planned cost structure, and based on the situation you can visit it and realign it.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Anurag. And yes, like our speakers have already discussed this at length, that the planned way of doing it is you should always have an IT health assessment first. Understand where do you stand currently. Have your as-is study done. It's only then when can you think about the to-be, that where is it that you want to go and how should you go about it. So that is the structured way of going about it. So one of the questions has been directed to Mr. Anshul from our attendee, and that question is, finance leaders are becoming more tougher on budgets. How can one justify the need of IT costs?
They were always very tougher. The smile on Anurag and Abhijit's face tells it all. So right from that day, more than 2.5 decades back when I started, they were tougher. It has only become tougher day by day. So honestly, now I am out of it. I am on the other side of the table, and the torch is being led by Anurag and Abhijit. But I would say, from my sense, Sujata, see, there are a couple of pieces. It's not about justifying the cost. More than that, I would say it's all about showing the value. I would say creating value. So creating values for your business. If a CIO and his IT team is able to create values for their organization, I really don't think so that they would be under so much of a stress or pressure. The problem is how close and how aligned are with our business. So I think that is the first thing, values. And the second is in terms of the visibility. Sorry to say, and I'm a little bit of I may be sounding critical of my own fraternity, but at times I find that CIOs really don't go and stretch themselves to do IT branding. So I would say both of these things, so values and visibilities are a couple of points, and I would share some of my thoughts on both of them. When I talk about values, I think one of the pieces data. Data is the key piece. So when we talk about data, we are not talking about the business data. Business data is a separate discussion altogether. When I talk about data, it's all about the IT maturity itself within the organization. How mature is in my organization? How much do I need to spend? I think a CFO, let's understand the role of a CFO. He has to control cost while maintaining efficiency of the organization. More oil in the financial greasing perspective. Now, his role is like that. It's not that he is culprit. His role is to ensure that everything is in check, every checks and balances are maintained. So now what as a CIO I can provide him is in terms of a data. Over here we would be over here spending this much of your money. This is the value we are going to get. So that data maturity is very, very important. We should be showing that. Number two is to give them a, I would say, feel good factor. And that feel good factor is something which I can't give as a CIO. So get a third party assessment done wherein you can say, yes, this is right, this is not so right, I would make it right by this. So it's a validation of what all you have been saying all across. And at times I would say a third party perspective really helps in terms of seeking financial gains from your own CFO and CEO. It's a betterment for IT. I would say these two are the values oriented. Number third is in terms of, I would say, people. Every CIO in this damn month wants to go digital. Every person. At times I get confused whether he's a CIO, he is a CDO. Some are CIO / CDO on LinkedIn, some are CIO and CDO. हमारे टाइम पे ये सब नहीं होता था. यानी मैं जब रिटायर हुआ था, मैं यानी छोटा मोटा CIO ही था. बट हमारे टाइम पे CDO वाली टर्म इन्वेंट हुई. तो अगर मुझे आज बोला जाए अंशुल आप CIO CDO होते, मुझे नहीं पता. मैं स्लैश था, एंड था, और था. I really don't know. मेरा एक simple question, और यानी in one of prior to lockdown, I was speaking in one of the forums. It was a IT industry events of CIOs, and I was talking in front of 70-80 CIOs, and I was asking them, everybody of you talks about digital. Do we have competencies as a CIOs to talk and lead digital for our organization? Do we really know what sort of competencies do we need to be called as a CDO? We have designations and titles. What about the competencies? Is our team ready? वो एक हार्डवेयर इंजीनियर, एक नेटवर्क इंजीनियर, सिस्टम एडमिन इंजीनियर, उसको डिजिटल का डी नहीं पता, और मैं बोलता हूँ कि मेरी टीम आईटी डिजिटल है. So I am saying, don't mind, but this is my point. I think IT really needs to partner with HR to have that competency framework developed. Get our people assessed. You may be doing fantastic in the so-called digital world, but you can do much better if you can really harness those potentials of the people in your team and your own selves. So competency and assessment centers really need to be the need of the hour for organizations and the CIOs. My last point is in terms of, I would say, to put a curtain on all of these pieces. I talk about values, I talk about visibility. Visibility is my last point. And that too is in terms of when I say that IT and the CIO, IT teams and the CIOs need to improve their branding. I would say they have to be more visible. Any project which you do, which has a pan-organization layer model, go for IT project branding. I would say Sujata is a known sort of person, professional who does go for a number of companies. She does it in terms of the project branding. Every project you do, create that aura around, yes, this has been led by IT. Be visible. Don't get restricted only to the work you do. Make it outstanding. Make it outstanding. Do projects like IT strategy roadmap with the involvement of business folks. Let them know IT is up to something. I think these are the small, tiny steps. So it's not a toggle switch which could be on and off, and the CFO is going to say, no, it's a huge $1 million budget I am sanctioning you. But these are the confidence building measures. These are the CBMs of how you could eventually, probably, you will not be able to shut the voices off, but probably you would be able to manage them far more easily if you concentrate on creating values and visibility. These are the 2 points.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Anshul, for sharing your views and quite exhaustively. So thank you for that.
Your question touched my heart.
I would like to endorse his views, actually. I have been a little fortunate in the role play when I'm doing a head of IT. Whenever I gone back to management with those data and the value proposition, I was never turned down, whatever may be the cost of it. So see, that's what is very rightly said. If you make a value proposition for the business, I do not think that any management or any CFO will turn it down. And the branding, of course, after all, he is also, you are also putting it up for the business betterment.
Yeah,
you should understand that he's your pal, not somebody like that.
Great. So thank you for that. But prior to we concluding today's panel discussion, I would request all the speakers to maybe in 30 seconds, if you could share any closing views, any points that you wish the professional network to make a note of, it will be great. So we could start with Mr. Anurag, then move to Mr. Abhijit, and then close with Mr. Anshul. So Mr. Anurag, your closing views on today's panel discussion.
I think I am slightly, diverting apart from cost optimization. As a CIO, you have to upgrade yourself, keep learning, keep growing.
Great, thank you. That's very concise and very directly hitting to everyone. Mr. Abhijit, your closing views for today.
I would like to put it this way, like as very rightly said, a CIO has to be the first learning member of the whole organization. He should be the pioneer of learning, and he should collaborate with two partners in the organization. One is HR, and another is the finance. Because for competency, we need to build up competency. See, if you can give a very high-end technology delivered for the whole organization, but if you cannot train the users, you cannot be successful, right? So HR comes in the way, and the L&D part of it, L&D system, the whole L&D system has to come, and there should be evaluation system for that. And CFO has to be your pally, because whatever project you want to do, you should get vetted with that. Nothing less, nothing more. CFO has to be your partner for any projects. Third thing, a caution for the CIOs and caution to me also as well. Don't be afraid of selecting the right technology, the state-of-the-art technology, but go N-1. That's my strategy. Go always N-1. The reason is N is very fancy, very good thing to do, but N-1 is proven. So if you want to drive value in the organization, we should always be N-1 and be careful about EOS. With the two words always scare me, EOS and EOL, end of life and end of service. We have to be very careful while selecting things. These are the few things, that there are a list of things I can keep speaking, but these are the few things I felt that one CIO should be very, and he has to be a good team leader, no doubt about it. Leadership of value has to be there, because he is leading a bunch of intelligent guys who can think diversely. So his role is to put them together on a groove and be an orchestrator. That's
Great.
it.
Multiple things shared by Mr. Abhijit, but one common thing between Mr. Anurag and Mr. Abhijit was that yes, the CIO herself has to keep on learning and relearning. So Mr. Anshul, your closing views for today's panel.
Sujata, my closing points would be two. I think a CIO has to lead his IT ecosystem, treating itself that we are a business enabler. So it doesn't matter whether cost gets cut here, probably moved out 10 different proposals, just like Anurag was speaking about IoT. So if one window closes, two other would open. So don't worry on cost spends or cost optimizations or cost reductions. Keep on doing the good work, focus on being a business enabler. I think this is one. The second is in terms of brand and visibility, part A, and part two, creating values for the organization you work.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Anshul, for sharing your views. So with that, we are close to a wrap for today's panel discussion. I take this opportunity, first of all, to thank all of the attendees who joined us on YouTube. And we will be sharing a recorded version of today's panel discussion. Maybe over the next few days, the recorded version will be out. So that would facilitate you in sharing it within your professional network, maybe, sharing it with the management, because there are several insights and learnings that can be derived from today's panel discussion. I now take this opportunity to thank all of our esteemed speakers who joined us for this rigorous panel discussion, and something that I could see from the way they have been talking, that it was very close to their heart. So thank you so much, Mr. Anurag Saxena. Thank you, Mr. Abhijit, and thank you, Mr. Anshul, for sharing your, the case studies of your own organization, some learnings and some food for thought that our attendees can take back for times to come. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you,
Thanks a lot.
Sujata, for a
Thank you.
great moderation despite all the bells in between. I'm
No,
sure
there
this
was
session and the
one.
recording would create and ring some bells within the IT community itself.
It was wonderful having all of you together, and I'm feeling proud to be a speaker over here. I could share my thoughts. That's an opportunity. Thanks, Sujata, and thanks Creating Value for that. Thanks, Anurag ji, for your kind views. That will be definitely helpful for me at least.
Yeah,
Certainly.
yeah, thanks,
Thank you.
Sujata. Thanks, Abhijit and Anshul also for this opportunity. Yeah, look forward to some more. Yeah, thanks.
Certainly.
And it was nice meeting you both, Anurag and Abhijit. Abhijit, I haven't met before, but yes, Anurag has been a dear friend and we have met many often. But sometime next in Jaipur, we would surely catch up.
Right. Thank you.
Great.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much, speakers. And with that, it is Creating Values Cubinars Fridays signing off for today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sujata.
Thanks. Thanks.